So we can learn how to do this, however. Learning how to sit down and read a book without any distraction, or I actually like to put my phone right next to me and do a bunch of no-goes. Every time that thing calls me, I just give it a little, no, F you, no. And you're practicing the no-go pathway and reading a book. The other thing that's very useful for developing focus is something that people don't do often enough anymore, including me, which is writing in complete sentences. The ability to write and think in complete sentences is hard work. I have a colleague at Stanford, Carl Deisseroth. He no doubt will win a Nobel Prize. He's a psychiatrist and a bioengineer and incredibly successful in science, also has 5 kids, practicing clinical psychiatrist. And I asked him, what is your tool? What in the world are you doing? And he says, well, at least once every 24 hours, I sit down in a chair and I force myself to stay completely motionless and think only in complete sentences for about a half an hour. I tried doing this for about 5 minutes. It is really tough. I invite anyone to try and only write in complete sentences for 5 minutes when they journal, as opposed to and or texting. We tend to use descriptive clauses, and we tend to do fragments now, and we're starting now. The brain thinks in kind of fragments and symbols, and that's very efficient. We wouldn't want to only think in complete sentences, but by writing in complete sentences, by forcing that pain of writing or that pain of thinking in a structured way, you are building up, you are reinforcing the neural circuits that support the so-called spinning of multiple plates, the ability to move the spotlight to a single location. You're learning how to harness the spotlight at one location. And so I think a lot of people don't realize they can train these circuits related to attention. You might say, well, how could writing complete sentences help me multitask? That doesn't make any sense. You're still taking control of these attentional systems. It's like learning how to operate any vehicle. Of course, it's not going to allow you to operate that vehicle in every context and in every way that vehicle could be operated, but you're learning the basic mechanics of attention when you force yourself to write in complete sentences, to think or speak in complete sentences. This is why I do the long podcast. I do these 2.5-hour podcasts by myself, and it's hard. And I think, this is hard, but I can't just say a half a sentence and then just drop it because I know the rest of what I wanted to say. It's work, but it feels good. And this is the other element, which is that over time, the dopamine system can be woven into the systems that control effort. I guess the notion of growth mindset is, learning to couple, Carol Dweck's beautiful work, is learning to couple the notion that effort is good for us, but neurochemically we can start to experience friction and think, this is growing me. In any other context it would be corny, but in this context, and because of a Leah Crum's study of Navy SEALs, I can appropriately say, learn to think about effort like a SEAL would, which is, this is growing me. In that thought, you are releasing dopamine in response to effort. In other words, the more friction, you always say good, more friction, good. I actually think about that a lot. I've had some trying circumstances recently, uninteresting for sake of this podcast, and I thought, God, this is either going to make or break us. And I thought, what if I just decided that the more stress now, the better it's going to be? And it's instantaneous, but then you have to keep doing that. And then when you wake up sleep deprived, you have to do it again. And when someone triggers you, have to do it again. So I love the OODA loop. And I love that you raised, for the first time I heard someone raise the OODA loop, not as something that's done once, but it's done over and over and over. So it's OODA loops, plural.
Yeah.
And I think we always hear about it as a unitary thing, but it's OODA loops, like you're in observation over here and you're in action on this one.
Yeah.
And so it's multiple OODA loops.